If you're stuck working 50 hours or more per week inside of your clinic and you just can't seem to break past that $100, maybe even $200,000 per month mark, this video is going to walk you through why that's happening and what to do differently to actually break through to the next level. And so here's the truth. The reason you can't scale to the next level is because you're not running a business. You have an expensive job, and right now you're spending too much time thinking about a practitioner, a doctor, instead of an entrepreneur. And in this video, we're gonna walk you through the mindset shifts that you need to go through in order to break through, hire more team, and ultimately create leverage for yourself in the business. Welcome to the channel, guys. My name is Jeff. All we talk about on here is how to hit $200,000 per month inside of your brick and mortar natural healthcare facility. Now, we do not make income claims. We don't think you're gonna watch one video and magically hit $200,000 a month. However, we are gonna be sharing with you best practices that we've seen working with offices that have had $200,000 or a month in clinical collections. But again, we do not believe you're gonna get there in one video. If you're new to the channel, welcome in. And if you're already a subscriber, welcome back. We've got another game-changing video for you here today. So let's begin with the million-dollar question. If you disappeared for 30 days inside of your business, would your clinic still grow? That's the key word there, grow. Would it grow? Not would it be consistent, would it not blow up, would it grow? Because the business can only be self-sustaining if it's actually growing. Things that don't grow are dead, okay? So your business needs to grow without the involvement of you, and that's what today's session is all about. Because most clinic owners, if they take 30 days off, it might explode, or at a minimum, they would have a significant loss in revenue. The million-dollar operators, though, their businesses actually run smoother without them. Yes, they're big on strategic innovation and growing the business, but in terms of actually running the day-to-day, they're so far removed that anytime they get involved in that, it just cogs up the machine. So the real problem that you're having is that you've built yourself an expensive job. And then what that means is that every time your business grows, the energetic requirements from you as the owner and operator also grow proportionally. That's why you see people grow really fast in the beginning and then they totally just burn themselves out because they're doing so much stuff. They're taking care of patients, they're training team, they might be hiring additional team, they're tracking KPIs, they're doing one-on-one reviews, they're managing tough cases with patients, right? So at the end of the day, they've got their hands in so many different baskets that no wonder they're overwhelmed. So the first thing that has to occur is that you have to make the shift. You have to make the shift from doing the work to building machines that do the work. That involves hiring, building systems, building management charts, doing one-on-one reviews. And by doing so, you transition yourself from being indisposable to completely obsolete. Like your goal is to remove yourself from this organization entirely and have it still grow. So to do all this, you have to transition your thinking from doctor to entrepreneur. And so here's how most doctors think. Nobody can treat like me. If I hire somebody, I'll just have to redo their work anyway. Or I need to see more patients just to make more money personally. Those are all extremely limiting beliefs that I believe a large majority of people have inside of their brick and mortars that prevent them from scaling. The entrepreneur, on the other hand, they think, how can I design the system so it operates without me? What can I hire for, delegate, or remove completely from my plate to buy back my time? And they're aware of what we call the golden rule of revenue. The golden rule of revenue is that for your brick and mortar natural healthcare facility, you want to be able to get $250,000 a year per employee. That means if you have 8 staff members, you should be doing about $2 million a year, $250,000 a head. Now, why is that a good benchmark? Because it shows you where you're at in terms of your team being over leveraged or under leveraged. Okay, so this video is all about creating leverage for yourself, buying back your time. The entrepreneurs are also aware of the $250,000 rule. And that means that if you have a brick and mortar, you want to be able to get $250,000 per year in revenue for every employee you have in the business. And what you can do is you can kind of use that as a barometer. So like as you start scaling and you add more team to support more patients, you might see your revenue per head dip a little bit. It might go down, but that's natural because again, you're hiring to compensate for new additional sales. Now, you do want to make sure over time that your revenue per head is not too low because that's where you start to run into very low profit margins and the business becomes real stressful. So remember, you don't want to hire to grow your business, you want to hire to buy back your time. So if you can do a time study to figure out what are the things that I need to hire for or delegate off my personal plate, you know what actions to take next in terms of your hiring, in terms of your team structure, your organizational chart, and it's ultimately going to give you a lot more freedom. Now, as you go about hiring, just a couple thoughts. Big mistakes I see people make, especially in brick and mortar, is that they hire very quickly. They hire very rapidly, okay? Which can be good, But sometimes they do it detrimentally because they're doing it out of stress. So they're overwhelmed in their business, they're overwhelmed doing too much stuff, and they just like need to get somebody in the business to help support them. And that they basically hire the first person that seems remotely good. I can tell you for factually that is not actually how you acquire A players. And if you hire really quickly, or what we call rush hire, you're ultimately probable to get not an A player. Now, after you have found the right person to come into your business, you want them to own no more than 3 KPIs, okay? 3 major outcomes inside of your business on a monthly, quarterly, maybe even weekly basis, because people can't remember or focus on lots of things outside of 3. They just become too time constrained. Now, let's talk about the ramping process. So when you finally found the right person, we like to go through a 90-day ramping protocol. So for the first 90 days, the new teammate is considered a 1099 staff member. This is a trial period for us to make sure that we mesh well from a culture standpoint and from an output standpoint. So the first 90 days, they are 1099, then they transition to W-2. Now during that period of time, we use a tool called the competency checklist, okay? So that basically says, it lines out very clearly to the employee, this is everything that you need to do throughout your initial 90 days to demonstrate full competence in. And the way we structure ours is we do 7-day, 14-day, 30-day, 60-day, 90-day. So for the employee, here's what we expect you to know and be competent at within the first week. Here's what we expect you to know and be confident at within the first 14 days, first month, 2 months, followed by 3 months. And so in addition to the competency checklist, here's a training cycle that actually works to ramp somebody in a very short period of time. The first thing we do is we teach them. We teach them how our business operates, our systems. We provide all the SOPs in both written and video format to the staff member so that they can train before they actually step into the actual real world. Once they've gone through the training, we do role playing, okay? So this is especially true for anyone that's in the front desk, anything like a patient coordinator, anyone that's close to the patient. We start off after training, we go to role playing. We'll role play tough scenarios, especially like over the phone conversations or anything that may relate to the sales and marketing process within a clinic. Then once we've role played, we have the person shadow. We pair them up with somebody in the business who's already doing a similar role, and we ultimately have them follow that person to the T. Now, once they've done all that, they're ready to work, okay? And these next 3 things we do in perpetuity. So the person works, then we audit their work, and then we have a feedback loop, okay? I'll talk more about feedback loops here in a second, but it's a consistent process of letting the people work and execute on the goals, then looking at the work and auditing where the inefficiencies are, auditing where the errors are, and then having a tight feedback loop to give that information back to the staff member so that it can ultimately optimize and improve their work. Now guys, if you want more of this and the actual goods, you see I can only share about 10% of what I give our paid clients inside of our actual training programs. So if you're curious on how we can help you, here's a couple different ideas. The first, we have our Accelerator program. The Accelerator program is a very hands-on advertising program. It is an acquisition-based program. We do share some ideas about hiring and team training, that kind of stuff, but we are really fired up about getting more patients in the door and more patients converted to care. So we talk immensely about marketing and sales on a 90-day immersive where we do all the ads for you. Your team is just responsible for doing a little bit of lead management and also ensuring that you meet with our team to monitor your KPIs on a weekly basis. Now, there are minimum revenues for that program. We currently do not accept clients that are doing less than $50,000 per month because they're just not quite ready for such an immersive experience. Additionally, we have our Master Clinical Marketing program. This program is designed for individuals who are building up past that $20K, $30,000 a month mark and are really looking to learn the skills of advertising themselves. So in that program, we take you through an immersive of modules where we train you on best practices of modern day advertising, modern day sales practices. And our goal, to be transparent, is that you join the Master Clinical Marketing program, you scale up your business with the ideas and training that we give you, and then maybe someday you jump into our Accelerator program where we can go hands-on with you and truly help you go to the next level. So make sure you check out those links below to see if they might be a fit for you. All right, let's talk about metrics and scoreboards. So we have to make sure that we have live metrics for every one of our teammates, okay? So when we ramp somebody, we need to be very clear on what the objectives are and what the KPIs they must reach. Now, the big secret to all this, though, is like it's one thing to share the metrics with a staff member, it's another thing to have a scoreboard. So what we do is we build a scoreboard that demonstrates and shows all the metrics that the staff member must hit in their particular role, and then the metric sheet, the scoreboard, kind of just becomes like this like mutual ground of accountability. And so each week we do performance reviews. We sit down and we look at the metrics. We're able to get feedback from the staff member. We're able to hold them accountable. And when they're running into notable challenges, then we can ultimately have some input so that they can overcome that challenge and ultimately move forward in their role. The next thing you need is feedback loops. Feedback loops are how frequently you are formally sitting down with a critical staff member. So we always like to start everybody on at least a weekly one-on-one until they've demonstrated performance. Once they've demonstrated performance, we'll move to a bi-weekly consistent check-in. So no matter what, if they're performing very great for years on end, we'll still meet with them every 2 weeks. Now, one of the craziest parts of this entire review process is that if you strategically host your reviews with the employee, you'll be able to get a ton of insight into your own business. For example, when we do a review with a staff member, we are going to ask them a series of questions that go in addition to the KPIs, okay? Now, the questions we might ask might be something like this. Where's 10% of our time going that you feel like is an absolute waste? If you were in my shoes, what would you eliminate immediately that you feel like is not driving value to the business? And then what would be something that would make your time 10 times more efficient and provide more upside to the business? So because these critical staff members are super close to the activities that they're doing every day, if they're true A players, they are able to spot inefficiencies, they are able to spot areas for opportunity, and that stuff is just like, there's no value you can put on that to yourself as the owner, because it gives you just immaculate insight into what's truly going on and how to make the ship a lot better. So the goal of all of this is to climb the ranks, okay? You start off as a new entrepreneur, you're trading your time for money. That's where a lot of people are. They get stuck in that. That's why a lot of businesses don't make it to $1 million a year, because they get stuck trading time for money, okay? So that's rank 1. Rank 2 is you start trading money for time. That's where you eventually start hiring team, creating leverage for yourself, and really buying back your time to focus on higher revenue generating activities. And then finally, level 3 is money. You basically use money to get more money, okay? That's like the enterprise level. That's where you're building your legacy. That's where like you're so removed from your business that you are only using investment vehicles to continue to grow your wealth. Okay, think about like Warren Buffett. He's not working like a ton in terms of his business, but he's just deploying capital. He's deploying capital into this business, into this business, into this business, and then that capital goes back and brings back, you guessed it, more capital. So as we get to the end, just a quick call for your action, okay? So most of you will watch this training, know you have inefficiencies, know you need to hire, know you might have a sour apple on your team, but you don't take any action, which is really unfortunate, because what we found is that the people that make really quick decisions and are really, really obsessive over solving problems, those are the people that ultimately dominate the market. And so the reality is the only thing that's stopping you from growing is the refusal for you to fire yourself. You just eventually need to fire yourself from your own business. That way it becomes its own living and breathing machine, and you have absolute freedom of choice when it comes to your organization. And so for those of you that are ready and are interested in maybe leveling up your processes, again, check out the links below in terms of our accelerator program and also our master clinical marketing program. Those are where we can come in and help you hands-on. And if you like the content, we are going to be putting out content twice a week here on YouTube, all about how to get to $200,000 per month inside of your natural healthcare facility. So hit the subscribe button, and if you'd like to, hit the bell button. You'll be notified every time we post. I believe we're putting out some of the most high-level and relevant clinical marketing, acquisition, and just best practices to scaling a brick and mortar that's currently on YouTube today. So hit that subscribe button. Make sure you check out the new content. And again, if you want to talk with us deeper, hit one of those links below. I look forward to seeing you next time.